welcome. Today we're going to be recording this session, so please be aware that we're recording this session. So if you do have your cameras on, you will be visible, and if you do have your names there, that will also be visible. Okay, thank you very, very much for being here in this last week before Christmas. We are delighted to welcome Kornélia Lohyňová to this session of the EntreComPEdu Café. We are running this EntreComPEdu Café as part of the EntreComp Europe project, led by COSME, funded by the COSME program of the European Union. And it's really an opportunity for us to bring in educators, people who are involved in really active entrepreneurial learning, grassroots level, to share their perspectives, their learning, their ideas on how others can take forward their own entrepreneurial learning in their own learning context, be that teaching, be that youth work, be that adult training. So this week, it's a topic that is really close to my heart, social and emotional learning. Kornélia has got a huge amount of experience in this area. She leads the e-twinning entrepreneurship in education community. She's a Microsoft certified educator. She's got a huge amount of experience and professional competence coming into this to really share her ideas and practical ways of developing the social and emotional learning of our young people, our adults. All of us could benefit from a bit of this, quite frankly. And I think it's really a way to hear from you, Kornélia, on how you've done this in your teaching. So I think this is a very brief introduction to someone who I've been a long admirer of her work, both published and in practice. So I'm so pleased you're here. Please, Kornélia, over to you for your session today on social and emotional learning. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you for inviting me for this. So now I hope that you can see my presentation. Yes, great. So it's been a pleasure for me to be here with you, and I've seen also some names that are familiar to me. So it's so really greetings to all from Bratislava, from Slovakia. So I'm a teacher at Hotel Academy. So this is my profession. And then, yes, I have I provide trainings for teachers. And yes, I am, how to say, I'm really passionate about e-twinning and international project, but I will mention it later on. So my first question. Oh, now okay, here. So have you ever seen a child throwing away a toy, or maybe hit a table with a fist, or maybe it happened to you? Or you were not able to focus maybe at work because you were thinking about your problems at home, or you had a conflict at work and brought it home, shouted maybe at your child and then you regretted it. So sometimes we behave the way we don't like and we wish it's never happened. Or sometimes we can't fall asleep. That is in my case very often, in spite of the fact that I know that the next day will be hard for me and I need to sleep. So all this is connected with emotional intelligence. So we are adults and still we have problems to understand ourselves, to manage our emotions and solve our problems or achieve high performance. And the question is, what about kids? So what is our focus at schools? It's academic performance. It's behavior, students' results, you know, how they are performing on tests. So we are just focus on what we can readily see, what we measure. usually, yes? So we focus on this 10% of an iceberg above water. And the question is, are we interested in what is underwater? For me, it's social and emotional learning. It's about focusing on this part of the iceberg that is below the surface. And according to Collaborative for Academic Social and Emotional Learning, they have this nice description what social and emotional learning is. So this part that it's the process through which people acquire and apply knowledge, skill, attitudes to develop healthy identities, manage emotions, achieve personal collective goals. It is about emotional intelligence. Then feel and show empathy for others, establish supportive relationships. That's about social intelligence. And then make responsible and caring decisions. So I follow this. Of course, there are different attitudes to social and emotional learning, but I will refer to this case framework. On the car dashboard, we can see our speed. We can see whether we need to add the fuel or oil. We get all information to drive safely, reliably. And sometimes I wish I had such a dashboard myself. We don't have it to reveal our emotional state and to inform us what is wrong with us. But of course, we can find a way how to do it. And that's why the first step and crucial one is self-awareness. And yes, so what we need to do? We need to recognize our emotions, to be aware of our thoughts, yes, to our behavior, and understand how they are interconnected. We need to recognize our strengths and limitations, and with a sense of confidence. So self-awareness is always the first step. And then self-management. Because many times we just can't prevent emotions to come, yes? But what we can do is influence how long they last and how strong they are. So this is important. The second competence as well, it's self-management. It's, of course, this ability to manage our emotions, to deal with stress, and to manage our thought and behaviors in different situations. Also to set the goals. As you can see, there is a connection because we are now in this entrepreneurship, on the cafe. So we can see connection to EntreComp. So like competencies like self-awareness or self-efficacy or motivation, but also planning and management, taking initiative. Yes, so all these is connected with EntreComp and competencies of entrepreneurship. So what I do at school, what we do at school, so that I teach students how to be self-aware and how to manage their emotions. So first of all, my students need to feel that they are safe, that they are supported to talk about their emotions. And it is okay to have both like this kind of positive and negative emotions. Yes, there are no right and wrong emotions. So we need to build an atmosphere of trust and respect in our classroom. And I need to know that my students are ready to learn. So we have this check-in, and I give them quiz with questions about their feelings, how it's in Slovak, but maybe so I just ask them how are they feeling, and even I give them question about how they slept or whether they had breakfast. So simple questions, just to know about their mood and readiness to focus, and also to help them understand their emotions and maybe emotions of others. So we also talk about, for example, these talking about rose and thorns they experienced. And sometimes I was quite not disappointed, but surprised that they were not able to talk about the roses, like what positive they have experienced or what positive is waiting for them. So that's why this is important, because I can also like draw attention to these positive things in their lives. And then we have, I have this simple survey in we use now Microsoft Teams, of course, not only because of distance learning, but I've been using it for since the beginning when it came to like Microsoft, when they came with this MS Teams. It was maybe 4 or 5 years ago. So we have this simple survey at the beginning of the school year, and students reflect how good they are in self-awareness and how they understand their emotions. So after that, they know that, okay, what is my weakness, or what I should focus on the next week. And this is quite nice activity for them, and we can work with that the next weeks, really. So what else can we do? And what we do, there are many activities, of course. And so reflective journal, to write about different like situation they experience. And what is important, that they write about situation, like trigger, what triggers the emotion, yes? What were their reaction? Because then they can regulate it. So first, self-awareness. And then also we do personal like SWOT analysis. And it is important to find their strengths. So I have like quizzes for them. You can see now the link, and I think that I will share in the end. So character strengths, but also we test different skills so that they can build on it. Strengths are important also then for collaboration, to know each other's strengths, to build on them. It's great for next work, whatever we do. And so now once I read an article that was really very nice for me. And there was one educator who was talking about the experience that she was mining for diamonds. So I decided to mine as well. Sometimes, yes, I see my students like these like hard rocks, it's very rough. And my task is, and I think that's the task of teachers, is to like mine for diamonds, to find diamonds in each student, to help them find their strengths, and then maybe catch them doing right things, not focusing on mistakes that we usually do. Yes. And what I do also, and now they have this task before Christmas, that we do so-called Genius Hour. So they can work on their passion projects, and they can then share with us their passions and their strengths. So this is very nice activity and very nice project that can boost also their self-confidence. And then we also intentionally talk about emotions and how they impact our well-being. We know, of course, that positive emotions are important for our well-being, and it doesn't mean that negative ones are bad, but it's important to experience more positive than negative emotions. And there is now, I'm not sure, but I think that Barbara Fredrickson, researcher, she suggested that we need 3 positive emotions to beat 1 negative. So quite simple things. And we need 3 positive thoughts to beat 1 negative. Yes. So we know that all these 4 elements are connected. When we feel tired and not fit, then our emotions are not positive. And then our emotions, they drive our thoughts, and then it turns into behavior. So it leads to action. So we can influence our emotions, yes, by our thoughts. And just imagine when you think about your nice experience, maybe about your loved ones, about something nice that happened in your life, then it triggers feeling of joy and happiness. So if we understand how this like quatrefoil works, then we can have more control over it. So, of course, again, I need to stress self-awareness is crucial and self-management then. And this can be done by applying mindfulness. Be mindful about what you feel, about what you think, about what you do. But I will talk about mindfulness later on. So now the question is, you know, what is this? It's, yes. So, yes, I saw this once, day in the life of a woman. And then day in the life of a man looks like this. But of course, it is generally said that men don't experience so many emotions, but in fact, they inner word is really as rich as the word of women, but they just don't talk about it so much. But we have these stereotypes about men and women, and we usually treat girls and boys in different way. So we should be careful about that. And we talk about this also in our classroom. And yes, and we talk also about zones of regulation, so that we not only like expand our emotional vocabulary, but we also think about the ways how to manage our emotions. What if we are in red zone? What to do? Now, what are maybe our strategies? What if we are in blue zone? So, and then also, it is an information for me because then I can adjust activities for students. And then about, you can see this picture because we live in the digital age. So we also check at school or in our classroom at the beginning, like digital habits. And then, so there is, you can see in English, I asked my students to check their digital habits and then add this emoji about the feelings, and then they have to choose one habit they want to change and write why it is important to change, and then steps and so on. So this digital awareness is so important again. And yes, so what we do is mindfulness. I wanted to do this exercise with you, but it's maybe it would take a long time. But mindfulness is the practice of being fully aware of the moment, of your thoughts, of your emotions, yes, of your actions. So it means that you are immersed in the present moment and paying close attention to what's going on. And what is important that you just think and accept it without judgment. And of course, it's not so, it's quite simple. It's not so difficult to practice mindfulness because any activity can be turned into a mindfulness activity. even if you go out walking in the street or forest or doing dishes even, it can be mindful activity. And so what we do at school, as you can see, it's body scanning or breathe exercises, or what is the most popular, it's mindful eating. And mindful eating, I give my students a piece of chocolate or gummy bears, and then we first just observe it, and then we have to feel how it, this feeling on our skin. So, and then slowly, while I am talking about it, they put it into the mouth, and so we do this whole exercise like 5 minutes, mindful eating of chocolate. And why? Because it can lower stress, anxiety, and then increase concentration. And then we can just connect it with savoring, and savoring, this is important. Yes, we are now at Edu Café. If you have your coffee, how do you drink your coffee? Do you pay attention really to it? Do you enjoy the nice smell, the taste, and the warmth of your cup, maybe, of tea or whatever you have? Do you realize how great it is to have this moment for you, to have this possibility and to celebrate this nice moment? So we often let this nice, good moment just pass without any attention. Just not even noticing them. So savoring is one of the source of happiness, and it is connected with be grateful. Yes, with gratitude. Yeah. So intentionally we do this. Now it's a problem at school because we have this COVID, the mask, and it's not possible. But before that, and I hope that sooner or later it will be possible again, we just savor, and we do this mindfulness exercise and savoring this moment. And it's great. Or maybe, but I will maybe can show you what I can do with breathing exercise. You can do it with me. So how do we breathe to lower anxiety? So if we breathe in, we go with the finger like up, breathe in, and then breathe out. And then breathe in and breathe out. So we do this exercise, and it's quite nice, quite simple, and this can be very helpful. Imagine when students come to your classroom and you start focusing on what to do, what to teach, and their mind is wandering. So this can be a nice moment for concentration. And yes, then another thing that I really pay attention is to stress, because stress is, of course, is something, it's a state of uncertainty. And uncertainty is really the biggest threat for our brain. And we know that stress to a certain amount can have positive effect, but it can be like kind of stimulation. Yes, then it's helpful. But it is important to recognize stress and to recognize triggers. Yes, and if we live in permanent stress, then it has really impact even in our brain. And what else? In stress, we are more rigid, we lose concentration, our memory is not working. So how then I can expect that my students would learn something or would do something creative? Yes, so we need open-minded students. In stress, it's impossible. And if I have in mind that yes, my students, I work in a vocational school, and our students sometimes, few of them live in a really stressful environment. And it has really huge impact on their cognitive skills and memory. And so we need to know what to use, what kind of strategies to manage stress. And another thing why stress is like dangerous, it's a fact that we don't feel empathy for others when we are in stress, only for very close people. And so we can be like more aggressive, just as sometimes when I'm driving my car to work and I'm late and there is somebody in front of me, and then engine just goes off and I'm nervous, and then I just tell myself, okay, be calm down. Now it's your time to be mindful, to calm down, just to enjoy this moment, because when you are angry, when you are in stress, it doesn't help you anyhow. So I'm talking to myself. This is my strategy that I talk to myself many times, but that's mindfulness, and that is self-awareness, that yes, suddenly I feel like no empathy, and I need to persuade myself that it's not a fault of the driver, but it's I need to deal with it myself. So there is one breathing that is most helpful when we need to calm down quickly, and that is what I do. And maybe I will now share it with you, because that is what I usually do with my students. You need to breathe in shortly twice, like with nose, and then breathe out slowly 7 seconds, like, and 7, and if you repeat this 3 times, it should help. So, but of course you should practice it so that it's automatic when you need it. So this is what I do quite often. but of course there are different strategies. Yes, this cognitive reappraisal and this replacing negative thought, that is my way of managing stress. But of course there are many others, and we have our own individual strategies, and we should find it. And that is also a task that we do, or activity that we do with our students. Daniel Goleman, who wrote a great book, probably you know about it or you read it, about emotional intelligence, and I would recommend to follow him on LinkedIn. He has a very nice blog, so I really am eager always to read his new article. So he says that we should treat ourselves like we would treat our best friend. And there is also a nice message for my students. And another thing is that sometimes we have this, what is SLT? Self-limited thoughts. And so we should be aware of these self-limited thoughts, because as Henry Ford said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you are right. And that is why I really just the last few years, I'm focused on another great book and try to apply as much as possible Carol Dweck and growth mindset. I'm sure that you've heard about it. And this fixed and growth mindset is really something that we should focus on. Every educator should read this book. And what can we do at school? Just such a simple thing like we should praise children's hard work, their effort, not just results, not their talent. Yes. And again, if we connect it with EntreComp, when students have growth mindset, they are more likely to feel self-confident. They have self-esteem and self-efficacy. And when I connect it to this digital world, they are even, I've read somewhere the research that they are less likely to be dependent on likes on social media. Okay, so now we come to another part, and it's social intelligence. And as you can see, there is also direct connection to EntreComp. And EntreComp competencies like ethical, sustainable thinking and mobilizing others, working with others, or spotting opportunities or valuing ideas. Yes, so I want to focus, yes, on empathy. And we know that we all students are kind and have empathy for somebody. But it is important to get them to be kind and have this empathy to people that are outside of their circle, like this circle, so-called circle of concern. Because we usually tend to be kind and appreciate people who are similar to us. It's just like our brain works. And very easily, unfortunately, we categorize people. Yes. And category they is very dangerous. So empathy can be developed in safe environment. That's why we design a classroom charter together with students, and I ask them a very simple question: how do you want to feel in your classroom? And then we turn these feelings into rules and expectations. Yes. And of course, it's important to lead by example. It's not enough when we just say, students, you should feel empathy, or you should be kind to somebody. It's not like that. We need to experience it. And we already know that they category and stress is dangerous. But what is they category? They category, it can be people of different ages, nationalities, or cultures, abilities. Now, even people who follow COVID rules or those who don't follow. And it is really helpful to show that this they category, they can have some common things with us. So it is our work, I think, to show students bridges. And that's why I'm so passionate about e-twinning projects and about now Erasmus project, because they are a great way how to support empathy, how to open minds of students, how to open their hearts towards other people, towards other cultures, you know. Because for me, I know that it's important to develop digital competencies and entrepreneurship in all many competencies. But first of all, human beings, we should just support this simple thing that we are human beings. And yes, so there are some activities that I do for empathy, because I think that one of the first ways students begin to experience empathies when they read stories of people from different backgrounds, or ages or religions, or just diverse communities. I ask them, and in any subject, how might a certain person approach this issue, or they, we have like reflective journal, but also just a small reflection on different issues that happened. For example, when there is something negative, so then they just write a reflection. How would you feel if you were in their shoes, maybe? And then what else is that it's nice to appreciate each other, like to give kudos, or that we, at the beginning of the school year, we do always kindness game, or then debating can be a nice way how to understand others. And yes, of course, communication. And I'm not going to talk about this too much. I just want maybe to draw attention to this, that we should, of course, teach our students to be polite and to listen with ears, but not only content, but what tone is used. Listen with eyes, of course, what the person is doing with hands, body talk, yes, but also listen with heart. So what do you think the other person feels when you communicate? And then, of course, we teach students how to pay attention to counter-argument, to disagree, but disagree without attacking, not to be loud when I disagree. And yes, we talk about this Rhetoric Triangle. It's an ancient art of using language to persuade. And this is a nice exercise when we want, for example, when we do any project and we want to persuade maybe stakeholders to get money, maybe, or when we want to persuade headmaster to allow us to do something, or just we practice talking to different stakeholders, to different target groups using this rhetoric triangle. And what I use, but only like last few years, this scarf model. And I like this. It was developed by David Dweck, and it was only maybe 5 years ago, I guess. And this scarf, it stands for these 5 key domains that influence our behavior in social situations. It is based on neuroscience research. And so because these 5 domains, they activate the threat or reward responses, yes, in our brain. So when we are in classroom, I teach my students to have like invisible scarf, and I try to always have this scarf with myself when communicate with others. Because when we feel threatened, that of course it blocks our creativity, our ability to solve problems, learning, whatever. It's not possible then to communicate, to collaborate. But when we feel rewarded, then we feel empowered and we want to do a good job. So scarf model is very important for me as well to apply this. And this is my challenge, because of course there are many activities regarding communication skills and teamwork. But my big challenge is now to implement rules of nonviolent communication. I really love this nonviolent communication by Marshall Rosenberg. It's he came with the idea that everything a person does is an attempt to fulfill his or her own needs. And then all these rules of communication are so simple, but it's not easy to practice them, not at all. So now I'm taking a course of nonviolent communication, and I'm amazed by this. And now I just blame myself how possible that I only discovered this maybe 2 years ago, or 2 or 3 years ago, and still I am learning. Yes, still it's just my passion. And now I am convinced that in the near future, I will be able to apply it fully in my classroom. And yes, what is the most important, what I do or what we can do at school is to promote, yes, good relationships, to create this atmosphere of tolerance, to be a lazy teacher, the kind of teacher that lazy, it means that whatever students can do, let them do themselves, to support their autonomy, offer this active learning where students feel they are competent, they can make a difference, they are valuable members of a community. And that is what is important to me. And because this way I just think that they will have this joy of learning. They will be happy to learn more and to develop themselves. And that is crucial, because in this fast changing world, it's just inevitable to learn with passion, and yes, to be valuable members to make a difference in the world. So I think that that's it, what I wanted to say. So thank you. And if you have any questions now, now I will try to find, I don't know, Ellen.
Yes, no, I can come in. We haven't had any questions so far. We've had quite a few comments coming through the chat. And some of them I agree with absolutely. Megan said, I wish my teachers had taken time for mindfulness when I was at school. Very useful techniques, not just for students, but in all our daily lives. And I think that emphasizes that these are life skills, but they can be developed in the school, at the very earliest stages of education. So definitely. Carolyn has added, I think all young people would benefit from starting every day with mindfulness exercises. And there's lots. Katerina said there's actual studies which prove that talking to yourself using your own name, like someone else is talking to you, actually reduces sudden anxiety. There's a lot of...
May I just interrupt you? Katarina is my previous student.
Ah. No, I think
many years ago.
Hi, Katerina, welcome. Welcome. So you've said some such interesting stuff here, and I think actually this is linked to one of the questions, if I may start, that I wanted to ask you, because this is stuff that I never experienced in my education. Admittedly, that was a while ago. But is this, to your knowledge, being developed in teacher training, for example? When we look at teachers coming in to compulsory education, are there countries that are leading the way on developing this kind of awareness and knowledge, which links into those key competencies you mentioned, EntreComp, but this comes through in sort of, there's another one, personal, social, learning to learn competencies through LifeComp. What you're talking about here is very linked to that too. These are quintessential life skills that children can develop. So my question is, are you aware that teacher training is developing this awareness and pedagogical knowledge and understanding for teachers coming into the profession? Or is that something we should look at?
I'm not sure about this. I'm afraid that I just know that in Slovakia it's not it's not the focus. And but on the other hand, you know, now because of this, everything has positive and negative side. This COVID, I think that brought more attention to this. And also when we see a lot of initiative, for example, we have like school inspection. I was 2 weeks ago, I was in Czech Republic. There was a big educational conference, and there were the head of school inspection of Czech Republic, and they came with this idea that, or they even just gave a statistic that they are focusing on well-being. So more and more they go, and not only like it used to be that they were focusing on, yes, like content and yes, skills, but well-being is the #1 priority. And because, and of course it is connected. Well-being, social and emotional learning, it's like emotional well-being. Yes, so I think, and also when we see all this initiative of huge organizations that are more and more concentrating on this, I think that it must come to
I think
education.
It should, it must. I mean, Andrea Galanos has said it's not happening in Greece, not least in secondary schools. But Carolyn Goodwin is with us. She said it is happening in Wales as part of the new curriculum that's been launched in 2022. There's a new curriculum for Wales with 4 pillars: curious, confident learners, enterprising and capable also. But I think it's great if mindfulness is in there as well. Carolyn, do you want to mention something there? I invite anyone to speak. We're a very open group here.
Hi, sorry, excuse the scruffiness. I'm just fascinated. Yeah, at Wales, we're quite proud of our new curriculum that's coming in, and there's a lot of mindfulness and everything that you're talking about now. And we're hoping that that will feed down into secondary schools as well. But we're pretty ahead of the game, I think, with our primary schools in Wales, right from nursery right up to year 6.
Well, that's great to hear. That's great.
And you know what I know, but unfortunately, it's more in elementary schools and more in these, yes, alternative schools that they have these communities in the morning. And they devote time to this like emotional learning, and they really focus on that. So they start the day with a community circle, where they can share their feelings, and they talk about values. And you know, this unfortunately, I think that secondary schools somehow they think that they don't have time for that. That there are, of course, more important things. We need to lecture. We need to like pour all this knowledge to the head of our students. Many times not connected at all, but without really, for me, it must be supportive environment. It must be this safety, and you know, these 3 important things: that I want to feel safe, I want to belong somewhere, I want to be appreciated, respected. That are our needs. And then, and yes, of course, everybody. Whenever we go, our brain asks this: am I safe? Am I respected here? Do I belong there? If not, then it's a stressful situation.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. That it is that sort of you kind of lose perhaps this focus on community as you move through the education system, sort of through that sort of becoming an independent learner doesn't mean you become an independent human in that way. We're still part of a society, a community, a group, and we still need to feel that safety, that belonging, and that appreciation of us as individuals within that community. I think that's really interesting. I would be interested to see, actually, just to find out a little bit more about some countries that are developing this in secondary school also. I'm going to take a look at the Welsh curriculum, Carolyn, see what happens in secondary school. Because you're right, it is a pretty good curriculum, actually. It's very interesting. So I wonder, perhaps a couple of questions, quite specific questions I've got, Kornélia. Sorry, I apologize for my specific questions. Anyone else also happy for you to answer questions? But you mentioned you've said a couple of tools, which were, you used Mind Tools, which looks like a very interesting tool. Perhaps we can just add that into the chat as a resource that people might want to look at. And you mentioned you were doing a course on nonviolent communication. I think in these times, that's when we, the stress that we feel in our society right now is significant. There's a basic proof of that in that, a referral to a child psychologist is, that waiting list is 2 years long now. It's doubled, tripled in some areas. And this is indicative of the stress that many young people, very young people often are feeling. And sort of, this non-violent communication can be an important tool for teachers sometimes to manage and understand and see through different behaviors that are very challenging, and to be able to bring people together. You mentioned you were doing a course. I'm assuming, because you're quite experienced in this, it's probably a good one. Could you share where you're doing that?
So it's just now in Slovakia, and so I have it's really focused on nonviolent communication in the classroom.
Okay, so it's for teachers particularly.
Yes, and it is great. So it's like the process, like from the activities, like first learning about the needs, feelings, to recognize. So they're like step by step, and how to work with students. It's like the whole year process to implement it. And I like it. I am just at the beginning. So I'm really eager now to study it, and now I'm very passionate to watch all TED Talks and talks of Marshall Rosenberg. Yes, just to understand it more and to practice, because yes, understand is one thing, and then really practice it is another thing.
Well, if it's a course that's a year long, that's actually focused on implementation, that's very good practice in terms of pedagogically speaking already. But no, that sounds really interesting. Thank you. Okay,
and what I wanted to say, another thing that just mentioned, that what I heard, but I can't prove it. It was just one TED Talk, or I'm not sure, that in last 20 years, that there was Harvard study, I think, that they made research among 20 years old youngsters, and empathy declined 40% in last 20 years. 40% is awful.
Huge.
And they think that, of course, social media, and yes, this digital world causes it. Social media, yes, because we sometimes we don't realize that there is somebody real sitting in front of PC on the other side. And we come with awful, horrible things sometimes, comments, posts on internet. And yes, we can't experience, we can't really how to call it, like immerse in this empathy, because this is very anonymous word.
That's interesting, and I think this is where the current situation that we find ourselves in, where young people, compulsory education is increasingly online. This exacerbates this ongoing decline, from what you're saying, That's something to, I will remember that and ponder that one. I think that's a very worrying statistic.
Yes, so that's why we need to somehow convert online space into something that is meaningful.
Yeah, and you feel the love.
Yes,
you feel the belonging and the
so,
respect and appreciation.
Yeah,
and the safety.
And online expression can be also nice, but we need to show it to our students.
Absolutely. I think they're doing for people I'm involved a lot in the key competence side at the European level, and they're doing a revamp of the EntreComp and bringing in these themes more, because this is what needs to be there as well. You know, awareness of AI and the impact that has on our society, and and empathy is across all of that, because it's that world, that being, you know, we're living in a digital world that those competencies are trying to deal with. So thanks everybody, and have a great happy holidays.